pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Where's Patrick got now? Oh, skiing. Oops, sorry.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Shields.
Here.
Simpson.
Here.
Coyne.
Here.
Hilberg.
Here.
Colasar.
Here.
Lamb.
Here.
Rose.
Here.
Reading of the minutes.
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields.
I move that the minutes from the March 9, 2015 regular meeting as prepared and submitted by the clerk be approved.
Second.
Discussion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Simpson.
Here. Yes. Yes, sorry.
Coyne.
Yes.
Hilberg.
Yes.
Colasar.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Reports of standing committees. The Finance Committee met prior to council and will meet prior to council's next meeting in 2 weeks. Health, Safety, and Sanitation Committee, Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a meeting scheduled to discuss the SPCA on the 31st of March at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you. Public Properties Committee, Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled and no update this evening.
Thank you. Special Legislation Committee, Mr. Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting held, but I'm working on scheduling one late in April.
Thank you. Streets and Sidewalks Committee, Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled, nothing to report.
Thank you. Water and Utilities Committee, Mr. Colzar.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had our last meeting on March 10th and no further report. Thank you.
Thank you. Request for council action. We have several for finance. We have 1547 budget amendments, 1548 payment over $3,000 to Mitchell Communications, 1549 bids for roof replacement at Fire Station Number 1, 1550 job creation grant for All Fasteners USA LLC, 1551 Sam Massey Park Nature Works grant, 1552 proposed amendment to Medina Montville JED contract. Public Properties Committee, there's one, 1553 Gold Star Memorial Monument, and Health, Safety, Sanitation, 1554 recycling bin locations. Reports of municipal officers. Mayor Hamwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Saturday, March 28th at 9 a.m., there's going to be a Taekwondo state tournament at our rec center. This is the first time it's been hosted outside of the greater Columbus area. Should be an excellent draw for people to see both our rec center as well as our community as a whole. This event is a qualifier for the national championship. They expect 250 to 300 participants as well as their families and some guests that come to just watch the competition. I'd like to thank Kurt Gehring from the rec center for promoting this event and drawing it into our rec center. The brass band of the Western Reserve will be hosting a concert March 28th at 7 p.m. at the Performing Arts Center. There is a cost for these. The tickets at the door are $10. It's $9 for senior citizens and $5 for students. Healthy Strides is the former Walk with the Doc with the Healthy Medina program. They're outdoor talks by medical professionals and then walks in the county parks. And the first one will kick off Saturday, April 11th at 9 a.m. at C.L. Musgrave Park on Windfall Road, just north of the Hospice Center. Dr. Talisiak and I will both be there to do a brief talk on the Healthy Medina initiative, and then it'll then be a short walk through the park. Both the talk and the walk are done within 60 minutes. These walks will continue then throughout the various county parks with different health professional talks and walks on the second and fourth Saturday of each month from April 11th, concluding at the end of October, October 24th. It's a good opportunity for exercise, good information, as well as good way to see the many county parks and the amenities that they have to offer. The walks and talks are done from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. each day. The park locations, because it changes, will be on the Healthy Medina website, which is www.healthymedina.com, or the Medina County Parks website, which is www.medinacountyparks.com. And last but not least, the Healthy Medina kickoff was Saturday, January 10th. But if people are still interested, they'll allow them to continue to register up until May. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Durham, Finance Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have my usual reminder that all residents of the city are required to file a municipal income tax return with CCA. We have several opportunities for residents to get assistance with those forms. The forms are also available here at City Hall or on CCA's website. The remaining opportunities for help with the forms are this Wednesday, March 25th from 2 to 8, Wednesday, April 1st from 2 to 8, and finally Saturday, April 11th from 8:30 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. All of those are at the Rec Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Huber, Law Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you. Sergeant Kinney, Police Department.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. I'd like to give you an update on the 2 fires we had from last week, which occurred on March 20th. The police department and the fire department responded to 235 Jackson Street at 2:45 in the morning for a structure fire. 235 Jackson Street is a 6-unit multi-family apartment complex. The apartment building had 16 occupants at the time of the fire. All the occupants got out of the building safely with no major injuries. The fire originated in a lower unit and spread throughout the portion of the building prior to the fire being extinguished by the members of the fire department. At 7:45 later that morning, police and fire responded to a second fire at 5 Harmon Court in Lincoln Crossing Apartments. That fire was small and was quickly extinguished by the residents. There were 3 people inside that apartment when the fire was discovered, and there were no injuries. The fire department, state fire marshal, and the police department began an investigation into both fires. Both fires were designated as an arson by the state fire marshal. The detectives quickly identified a likely suspect for both fires. Detectives and patrol officers immediately went to work to locate the suspect. At approximately 8 o'clock that evening, the suspect, a 29-year-old male from Cleveland, Ohio, was taken into custody. The suspect is currently charged with aggravated burglary, a first-degree felony, and retaliation, a third-degree felony. He is currently being held in the Medina County Jail on $500,000 bond. This investigation is ongoing, and we anticipate additional charges in the future. I would like to highlight the collaborative effort between the fire department, the police department, and the state fire marshal, which resulted in the quick identification and apprehension of this suspect. I have nothing further. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Ms. Rice, Economic Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Mendel, Planning and Community Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report this evening.
Thank you. Chief Painter, Fire Chief.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one item. I'd just like residents to know that we'll be offering CPR and first aid classes at the fire station for any public organizations or scout groups or anyone who may need it. They can call station number 1 at 330-725-1772 for further information. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wright, Recreation Center Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the mayor had mentioned, the Taekwondo Championships are this Saturday at the Rec. $10 for adults is admission, $5 for children and seniors, and children under 5 are free for that. For more information and to register online, you can go to www.ohiotaekwondo.org. Our new spring-summer brochure will be inserted in the Post newspapers on Saturday, April 18th. Will be available at the facility Sunday the 19th. You'll also be able to download the brochure starting Wednesday, April 15th on our website at www.medinarec.org. Lastly, our next scheduled Rec Advisory Board meeting will be Thursday, April 16th at the Rec Center at 7:30. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Worley, the Parks and Recreation Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few items. The Forestry Department has recently completed tree removals on Brandywine Drive, Goldcrest Drive, Beechwood Drive, and Shagbark Trail. These were all removed because of emerald ash borer. The department is currently grinding stumps this week and working on plans for tree replacement. We appreciate the patience of the residents who are impacted by this project, and if they have any questions in regard to the process, please call the Forestry Department at 330-722-9031. Additionally, the Parks Department is getting a lot of pavilion rentals coming into the office so far this year. So should any residents be interested in planning an event, please call and schedule early. At the Parks office phone number is 721-6950. Lastly, an update on the memorial pool. We moved the discussion from public properties to the finance committee 2 weeks ago, and our goal is to complete construction without a levy. I'd like to thank Mike Wright for bringing up the idea of taking the pool underneath the Rec Center Enterprise Fund. That can hopefully help us accomplish this project. Last week, we interviewed 3 design consultants, and we should select and announce a design consultant in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gladish, building official.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the snow melt and a couple of sunny days, the building department has been addressing many property maintenance complaints, mostly which consist of trash, debris, and old newspapers left that were buried in the snow that are now exposed. With no leaves and stuff on the trees, everything is visible. We are keeping up with all complaints, but we're asking that everybody just take a look around and see if they tidy things up around their if there's stuff in their front yards or in the ditches. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Piccoli, Service Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. An update on some of our projects. The Wadsworth Waterline Road Replacement Project is about complete. The 8-inch water line's been installed. We are hopeful that with the weather breaking that the contractor can start restoration in a couple weeks for that project. Blake Road project, as many know, is well underway. The water line portion is complete. Storm sewer installation is currently ongoing for the next week or so. And an important aspect, tentatively, we'd like to close Lake Road at Heritage for about 2 weeks, and there'll be announcements and notifications of the same for the replacement of the box culvert at Fire Station 2 crossing there at Heritage. So there'll be a detour set up, and that's slated for Monday, March 30th for about 2 weeks. We're hopeful they can get it done sooner, but we're hoping that we can go without too many problems. Lastly, as I've reported in the past, we've been discussing sanitation, recycling in the city, as well as the county, and tonight you'll hear very shortly a presentation from representatives of the Medina County Sanitary Engineers of the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Confirmation of mayor's appointment. We have a Records Commission, Justin Petreka, term expiring 12/31/16.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on the mayor's appointment.
Coin.
Yes.
Hilberg.
Yes.
Colasar.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Notices, communications, and petitions. There's none. Unfinished business. There's none. Introduction of visitors. Members of the public will be permitted the opportunity to speak on any issue or concern which pertains to the city during the portion of council agenda devoted to introduction of visitors. All comments should be directed to the chair, and a reasonable time limit of approximately 5 minutes will be imposed. If there's a group, please appoint a spokesperson. Speakers should approach the front right microphone and state their name and address so it can be entered into the minutes. Members of the public will be permitted the opportunity to comment on other portions of the meeting as determined by the chair or by a vote of the majority of council members present. Is there anybody that wishes to address council at this time? Introduction and consideration of ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance 3515, ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for competitive bids and to award a contract to the successful bidder for the annual purchase of general pavement services and equipment to be used by the service department.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Piccoli?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a contract that we've been utilizing for about the past 7 years. It serves the city well, specifically in emergency situations, and we'd like to continue the same.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Hilberg.
Yes.
Colasar.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Ordinance 35-15 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 36-15, ordinance rezoning parcel numbers 028 19A 13108, 028 19A 17001, and 028 19A 16047, located in the 600 block of North Huntington Drive from R3 High Density Urban Residential to SPD2 Special Planning District.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Mendel?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just to reiterate kind of the history on this, this was a project that had started in December of 15, or 14 rather, to the Planning Commission for the rezoning to from R3 to SPD2 for a 131-unit senior apartment, market rate apartment complex, 3 stories tall. This is for the basic zoning entitlements for the property, for the development as proposed. Planning Commission reviewed it at 2 meetings in December and on January 8th of this year. And on January 8th, the Planning Commission did recommend it to the City Council for review. There's a number of items that were addressed subsequent to the Planning Commission review, and this mainly dealt with the deed restrictions for senior-only housing that's been worked through, and those have been passed on to the applicant as necessary. So if the SPD is approved, those are just a conceptual level review. The next stages would still require a preliminary and final site plan review by the Planning Commission. That's where the construction level plans are developed. This project did go to the City Council on March 9th of this year for public hearing, and there was no substantive discussion at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Huber, I just want to double check. Did the other side approve all other type of restrictions, or is there still, do we have to make this subject to your final approval?
I think it should be subject to my final approval. The deed changes were forwarded to the developer, and there haven't been any problems that I know of, but I haven't seen the changes back yet.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion or comment?
Move to approve, subject to the final approval of the law director.
Second.
That's going to be a modification to the motion we just approved. Right, because we had a motion already. I believe so. Okay, any other further comments on that motion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Coin.
Yes.
Hilberg.
Yes.
Colasar.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Ordinance 3715, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for competitive bids and award a contract to the construction of lights and gates at the city-state road railroad crossing.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Pacoli?
Thank you, Mr. President. As you referenced, the city received an order from the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio to install rail crossing lights and gates on State Road. That was previously entered into an agreement with the PUCO that's referenced in Ordinance 2114. This agreement speaks to the PUCO providing $200,000 for this work. The engineer's estimate is $248,000, and the recommendation from the city engineer is for the city to provide the remaining $48,000 for the project.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Just so everybody knows, I'm going to vote no on this. I voted no throughout. I don't have a problem with the monies coming from the state and the grants associated with it, but I don't believe the gates are necessary at this location. Any ongoing maintenance, I'm not too sure of the costs associated with that. Clerk, please call the roll.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
No.
Hilberg.
Yes.
Colasar.
Yes.
Ordinance 37-15 passes 6 yeas, 1 nay.
Ordinance 3815, ordinance amending ordinance number 200-14, passed December 8th, 2014. Amendments to the 2015 budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Durham?
Thank you, Mr. President. These are the budget amendments necessary to handle the project discussed in the last ordinance for the railroad gates.
Okay, any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
No.
Hilberg.
Yes.
Colasar.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Ordinance 38-15 passes 6 yeas, 1 nay.
All right, then we're on to the presentation from Medina County Sanitary Engineer's Office for the solid waste plan update by the Medina County Solid Waste District. And I believe Sanitary Engineer Amy Lyon Galvin is here, and together with Beth Biggins Raymer. And we also have Commissioner Adam Frederick in attendance. So if you'd like, you can commence the presentation.
Thank you very much. My name is Amy Lyon Galvin. I am our sanitary engineer. And to my left is Beth Biggins Raymer, our solid waste district coordinator. She's been with our department for about a little over 5 months. She's been doing a fantastic job. Thank you very much to council and to Mayor Hanwell and to the administration for giving us an opportunity to speak to you tonight. Beth and I have been on the talking circuit. We've been visiting with each of the township trustees groups, village councils, city councils, school superintendents, school curriculum development directors to really try to further our message about improving and increasing recycling in Medina County. So with that, I'm going to hand the mic over to Beth, and she's going to begin our presentation.
Thank you. I'm going to begin by reviewing some of the information that we had covered at the joint council meetings, but we wanted to ensure that everyone had an opportunity to kind of hear everything again and you know, be brought up to speed if need be. Just giving you a little background of solid waste in Ohio. Solid waste districts are formed out of legislation. In the early 80s, there was a perceived garbage crisis, and a response to that was the Ohio legislation created legislation, that required each county to be responsible for disposal of their own materials. In '88, the legislation actually passed House Bill 592, which through that legislation created solid waste districts. It was also known as the Ohio Solid Waste Disposal Act. And from that legislation, out of the 88 counties in Ohio, 52 solid waste districts were formed. Some were single county districts, such as Medina, and others were multi-county solid waste districts. This is a graphic displaying all of the counties in Ohio and how they, out of House Bill 592, were created into solid waste districts. 52 districts, 15 of which are multi-county, 37 are single county, and of course here we are at the star. Of those 52 solid waste districts, 47 are run as districts and 5 are run as authorities. Of the 52 solid waste districts, they are very different in their composition. Some are very urban, some are suburban, some are rural. Some are single county districts as stated, and some have as many as 6 counties comprising their solid waste district. Populations of those districts run anywhere from 23,000 in the more rural sections of the state up to almost 1.5 million in the more populated areas of the state. As part of that legislation, solid waste districts are required to update their master plan. Just as in other areas of government, you may have a master plan for parks or for your city in general. We have a solid waste master plan, which we refer to as the plan update. And we are statutorily required to update that planning document every 5 years. The length of that planning document is to cover a 15-year planning timeline. And that has to include a variety of state goals, including special wastes. Our current solid waste plan, which we're going to go review this evening and talk about the contents thereof, has been crafted by the Solid Waste Policy Committee, which is a group that is set in statute, as well as the Solid Waste TAC, which stands for Technical Advisory Committee, which also input information along with a variety of other stakeholders. We have heard input from the cities, the villages, and the townships, which we've tried to incorporate in this plan. We as a solid waste district have to adhere to 7 goals. If you'll notice, the first 2, Goal 1 or Goal 2, are actually chosen by the district. Medina is a Goal 1 solid waste district, and what Goal 1 indicates is that what we do is, as the district, we have to provide access or the ability for 90% of the population within our district to have access or accessibility to recycling. We do that here in Medina County. There are some solid waste districts, neighboring in particular, that adhere to Goal 2. which instead of having access, what they do is they do significant survey work, and they actually have to calculate 25% reduction activities for residential, commercial, and 50 for industrial. Regardless if you are a Goal 1 or a Goal 2 district, you have to have programming and budgets for items 3 through 7, 7 being an optional activity, but we are statutorily required to provide technical assistance, programming for the special waste such as paint and appliances, which I'll put a plug in here now. We have both of those programs coming up soon in April and May. So if you have those items, please, bring those to our events coming up soon. Scrap tires, and we have to report to the agency on an annual basis. As part of our solid waste update, solid waste plan update, we have a very scripted timeline that we have to adhere to. Just as we have to update this document every 5 years, once we have the guts of it written, which are currently posted on our website, we then have to go through and take this out for a public comment period, which is in writing, and a public meeting, which is where you can give oral comments. And
sorry.
Oh, not a problem. Glad it was yours and not mine. And then we have to go through a ratification process, and I'll be talking about these components of the timeline more in detail as we go through the presentation. So I'm certain you're all wondering, so gosh, what is in the plan? There's this 400 and some page document on our web page, and you're wondering, well, I don't want to read every page of it. Can you cut to the chase? Statutorily, we have to do an inventory. We have to go and find, where are the composting facilities, what recycling activities are going on across all sectors. So that's the public, the industrial, commercial, residential sectors. We have to then do an inventory of all the recycling practices, once again across residential, commercial, and industrial sectors. We then have to actually prove to the agency that we have enough disposal capacity to deal with all of the garbage in Medina County that is generated across all 3 sectors. And we have to show that for the planning period up through 2030. Ohio is a landfill-rich state, and we do have disposal capacity for the next 35 some years. So we most certainly were able to complete that analysis. We actually have to provide a summary of all of our activities that are tied back to those goals that we had on a prior slide. We have to show, what are we going to be doing for household hazardous waste? What are we going to be doing for recycling and yard waste management? And then the last activity that we have to demonstrate in the plan is based on each of those programs. What is our funding source, and how are we going to expend those items? The biggest program change that we have in this plan is our sum of all parts strategy. Historically here in Medina County, we have managed all of the activities that we conduct at the central processing facility with one large overarching contract. And what we have decided to do to increase competition and provide for increased recycling opportunities is to take all of those individual activities and break those down into smaller contracts so we can increase competition and hopefully decrease pricing. The activities that have historically transpired at the central processing facility have been transfer, transport, and disposal. The facility is licensed as a solid waste transfer facility. We have always had a community drop-off location there. We have also historically had an organics or yard waste management program at the central processing facility. We also conduct outreach and education pertaining to all things solid waste. And we also manage special waste programs. As I mentioned earlier, we've got our paint roundup coming up May 9th. We have our appliance roundup activities coming up in just about a week. And And then the other activity that we have historically done at the central processing facility is our mixed waste processing line. The first contract that we have let since the ceasing of the overarching contract was for the transfer, transport, and disposal contract. We did put that out for bid simply because the next day after the old contract expired, we were going to have garbage appearing at the central processing facility, and for health and safety reasons, we needed to manage that. We put that out for bid. We had 6 responders to that bid, of which 5 of those responders were all within $1 of each other. So we were very pleased to see the increased competition and the lower pricing. We are currently finishing up, and we'll talk a little bit more about our community drop-off bid, and we anticipate that we too will see increased competition in bidding for those services. And the reason that we chose to break the contracts into smaller, the large contract into smaller contracts, and to look at other programming when it comes to solid waste management is because of the robust solid waste program that's not only in solid waste districts contiguous to us, but throughout the state of Ohio and nationally. Here in Ohio, for example, there are 400 plus curbside recycling programs. There's over 1,400 drop-off recycling locations in the state of Ohio. There's a great collaboration between the public and the private sector. There are a lot of outreach and education programs. There are, as we have started to have discussions with both our public sector friends as well as our private sector friends, since the coined trash talks have already been taken by another district, we're calling them our coffee clatches. And the idea is to share information and have further discussions about program development that will best suit each of the political subdivisions in the county. And then once again, there are lots of examples in the state of management for special waste, tires, lead-acid batteries, etc. Just to give you an idea, Medina in the blue, and to give you some idea of what our contiguous sister solid waste districts are doing. As you can see, Ashland has 12 drop-off sites plus some curbside recycling programming. That is also true with the other districts that surround us. Lorraine is a single county district, as is Cuyahoga and Summit, and you can see they have a mix of both drop-off programming as well as curbside programming. And then our Tuscarawas-Wayne district, which is one of those multi-county districts I mentioned, they too have a combination of both drop-off and curbside programming. And so we'll talk about the next bid that we'll be going out for, which is our district-wide drop-off recycling program. What we did early in January is we converted the drop-off recycling area at the central processing facility to accommodate a single-stream recycling program. And what that is instead of a resident having to worry about segregating their recycling material, that is, I have to have a container for plastics or a container for my cans and a container for my glass. Single Stream is a program that you will find not only in Ohio, but is nationally recognized and was developed as solid waste industry matured over the last 25 years. And it allows residents to combine all those materials into a single container for ease of management. So at the CPF, what we now have are 10 of these 8 cubic yard front-loading single-stream containers. And so, for example, I can bring my basket of single-stream recyclables, and although you can't really see it, there is a little sliding door. I guess you can see it right there. You can either access the bin on the side, if you're short like I am, or if you're taller, you can flip the lid up, and you can take these single-stream materials and deposit them in any one of these 10 bins, which the district is currently servicing. And we are looking for 38 other locations to site similar bins for the convenience of our residents. And the next slide actually talks about what is in our current single-stream recycling program and are the materials that we will specify in the bid that will be going out. We've expanded the materials that we accept with the single stream program. Historically, we'd only taken number 1 and number 2 plastics. Now we're able to take number 1 through number 7 plastics. So for example, yogurt containers, cottage cheese containers, those types of things. Some of the containers out of the frozen meals, those black containers, are now recyclable. We've reintroduced beverage and jar glass. So all of that can be put in the same bin. We've added cartons for the first time. So your orange juice carton, your milk carton, your soy milk carton, all of those now can be recycled in that same bin. Still accepting our aluminum, steel, and tin cans. And then I refer to this as really anything that rips. So newspapers, cardboard, magazines, ledger paper, your junk mail, any and all of these materials can be put into any one of those 10 containers. So folks don't have to worry about segregating them. We do want the materials loose, so when these materials go to a recycling facility, currently Rumpke is servicing the drop-off bins at the central processing facility, and whoever the private hauler is, or public hauler for that matter, that is awarded the bid for the county-wide single-stream drop-off recycling program. They will collect these materials and they will be designated as having to go to a recycling facility for processing into their commodities. And as Amy stated, we have been visiting all of the political subdivisions along with school districts, the parks, a variety of folks, looking for locations for these drop-off single-stream recycling containers. What we were doing is based on that access goal I mentioned earlier. There's a formula where we needed to site these. We came up with 38 locations. We have actually delineated about 43, and we have solid commitments for 33 of those sites as we speak this evening. And we're very excited about that. We have developed a host agreement because we view this as a three-way partnership between the host site, the district, and whoever our contractor is going to be. Basically, what we request of the host, the site host, is that you be the eyes for us on the ground. You're the one that's there all the time. If something were to occur, simply pick up the phone and call us. We will have district staff designated for roaming, for cleanup purposes, or any other issues. And that, you know, if you need, for example, someone in your community's had a great party and the bin is full and need an unscheduled collection, you pick up the phone and call us. The district's responsibility would be to obviously let the bid, manage the bid, pay for the bid. We are going to have district staff dedicated, as I said, to roaming and making sure that the sites are maintained. We will resolve any issues with the contractor. We will also mandate in the bid that whoever is awarded the contract, as they hit every single site for servicing, and most of these based on our projections will be serviced multiple times every week, that contractor will be responsible as they service that bin and put it back down, that they leave that area spotless, basically a leave no trace protocol. And then, as I stated earlier, the mutual responsibilities will be communication back and forth. As part of this program, we are also putting in the bid document that every host will be provided $1,500 for them to use as they see fit for either site preparation, site beautification, outreach and education, whatever they chose to do, you know, for their program for hosting that particular activity.
Thank you, Beth. I get to transition at the screen that I'm really excited to talk about. This one demonstrates to you some of our expanding partner agreements with regards to hosting these community drop-off recycling bins. as we continue to talk to groups and we continue to gain momentum, the support for the program and the publicity that we're getting through township newsletters and so forth has been great. This slide demonstrates for you the school districts that we've been able to talk to so far, other county agencies, including the Medina County Parks District. We're going to have bins at the Medina County Board of Developmental Disabilities location. Medina County Public Library has agreed to host at 2 locations, the Lodi Library branch and the Buckeye Library branch. And it's even generated some discussion between communities, and I'll give you an example. York Township was in favor of hosting a recycling bin at their town hall, but they deferred to the Buckeye Local School District because they have a very large campus that's not that very far down Columbia Road. So Buckeye Local Schools has agreed to be the host location. This map gives you a demonstration. The green stars, I apologize if they're hard to see, represent, based not only on population but on political jurisdiction, how we can get those sited out across the county to let them be available to all of our residents and thus demonstrate access through that goal number 1. Back to what's in the plan, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the budgets. Typically, our solid waste plan update would include just a single budget that would outline the collection of monies as we operate as an enterprise fund through what we would collect paid at the gate through tip fees, and that funds all of our programming. It pays for all the contracted services. It pays for our appliance roundup. It pays for our household hazardous waste collections and so forth. What's different in this current plan that we have out for public comment is that there are 2 budgets. And we did that intentionally to give ourselves some flexibility. Budgets A and budgets B are the same except for one very key component, and that's the operation of the mixed waste processing line. Budget A shows that that mixed waste processing line will be active, and budget B demonstrates that the potential exists that we do not reactivate that line if the cost to operate does not benefit us to the degree of the recyclables that we're pulling out to make that a cost-effective solution. And I will let you know too that we are, Beth and I, having conversations with all the different sanitation departments and the haulers. We haven't given up the idea of mixed waste processing. We are just trying to determine how can we best do mixed waste processing, whether it's through the use of equipment we have or it's simply the discussions we're having with folks. For example, if there's a commercial route on your sanitation pickup that is rich in cardboard and recyclable products, well, it would make sense for us, and what we're working very hard to do is improve those communications so we can target those loads and capture the most recyclable material for the best price. This slide demonstrates to you the gate rate. That's the tipping fee that we charge for folks entering into the central processing facility. And we wanted to be transparent. Some of you have seen this slide before, but this demonstrates the current $45 per ton that we're charging for rubbish brought into the recycling center. Oops, pardon me. I just wanted to point out, if I may, back to those items that you see up at the top, the $4.75 per ton is what all districts pay for disposal of rubbish in a landfill that goes straight to the EPA. The $26.95 a ton is what we had awarded our transfer, transport, and disposal bid. $2.77 a ton is what we're projecting for our entire countywide single stream recycling program. Just under a quarter per ton is what we're expecting for continuing the service at our Class 4 compost facility down at the CPF, but also to create 3 satellite locations district-wide, because part of the feedback that we've received from the communities during all these great talks is that folks aren't driving from the far reaches of the county all the way to Seville with their grass clippings and their branches. So we want to make it more convenient for people to take advantage of compost drop-off centers. $5.54 a ton for district administration. Our state mandated waste programs and education outreach is about another $1 per ton. Other programs such as the health department's inspections are included, debt retirement, and then what is the missing link up there is the price per ton for mixed waste processing. So we do expect to go out for a bid for that contract. We're just trying to figure out what options might we include in that, how can we best offer that to people that liked the convenience of wheeling one cart to the curb and having the recyclables removed by somebody else. So that'll plug in at some point in our considerations for tip fees. Another piece that's new in the plan, this you'll find detailed in Chapter 5 that talks about all of our Medina County programs. It's MC for Medina County 18. That's the establishment of a work group in the beginning of year 2016. Because what Beth had touched on earlier in the presentation was that timeline. We are 2 years now into the rewrite of the current solid waste plan that's out for public comment. Realizing that at the bottom of the 9th there's a lot of questions and people are wondering about things that we could do to further enhance our recycling opportunities in the county, and we're listening. We very much want to sit back down at the table. So this specific MC18 was created January of 2016. Once the current plan, or February, once the current plan that's out for public comments is adopted and ratified, we'd like to sit back down immediately. I think we'd mentioned earlier on that the solid waste planning process usually occurs every 5 years. But in this case, we're suggesting that we start immediately. There's no reason to wait 3 years to get that started. We've got great dialogue going on. Let's continue that and sit back at the table immediately. What we'd like to do through that work group is bring folks to the table that can help add to the group that serves as the Solid Waste Policy Committee. And to that, we'd like to include the City of Medina's Chief Executive Officer or his designee, or the City of Wadsworth's and the City of Wadsworth's Chief Executive or her designee, a second township representative, and a private sector solid waste industry rep, to give us an 11-member group to continue these discussions on how we'd like to move forward with our solid waste and our recycling programs in the county. One of the goals then would be that immediate rewrite of the solid waste management plan, eliminating flow control and encouraging a free market. What that'll do is afford folks to look at rubbish in a different way. I'll speak specific to Medina in the sense that if you chose to, under this rewritten plan, go to curbside recycling, you would have an opportunity under that free market situation to deal with those recyclables in the manner you see fit, and a contract written to suit your preferences, and the rubbish would not have to come to the central processing center. Strategies for the future, all spelled out in the plan, the current draft plan, are that we want to sit down in February 2016 and work towards paying off the current debt on the facility and eliminate that designation and the flow control, and eliminate any future planned debt or contractual obligations related to flow control. This next bullet item is like really truly the key point. We want to increase district recycling activities through implementation and tracking of recycling programs. If you choose to institute a curbside recycling program, we'd love to serve in a technical advisory capacity and help you put that together. It's a role that we take seriously, and we've been working even with the City of Brunswick at this point to figure out how they could do that sooner with their bid. We do want to promote the open and free market. We want to develop, though, a stable funding mechanism. If you recall, there are several things that the state requires us to do as a solid waste district. We've always paid for those programs through the collection of the tip fees at the CPF. If we go to a free market and the rubbish isn't coming to the CPF, we need to develop another funding strategy. One way to do that is through the creation of a generation fee. So instead of paying a price per ton for what you bring across the scales, there would be a price per ton paid by the generators of the waste that the district would collect to still allow us to do those state mandated programs. And just to let you know, on our website, I'm fine with that, Beth, thank you. There's www.recyclemedinacounty.com. On that lower or upper right-hand corner, if you click on it, it gives you the legal notice that describes we're taking written public comments through March 31st. And then we have a public hearing scheduled for April 9th to receive oral comments. And then if you click on the other link, you'll get the whole plan. It's like 417 pages long. But when you see that cover sheet come up and you want it to be the one that says plan update from 2016 to 2030, that's the one you want to look at. Just in case you're curious, what happens if we don't pass the current draft plan? Well, on our website, the 2009 solid waste plan update that had been ratified, actually I think that concluded in early 10, that's the policy, that is the solid waste plan that we would have to follow while EPA wrote our plan, but I'll talk about that here in just a minute. All comments, please, during this written public comment period could be addressed to my attention, and we will tally those, as well as those that we hear from the public on April 9th at Buffalo Creek Retreat. That's public hearing is scheduled from 7 to 8 p.m. And then what happens? So we take all the comments that we receive, those that were written, those that were discussed at or presented to us orally at the public hearing. We massage those into a summary, present those to the Solid Waste Policy Committee, polish the plan to include those comments and address those comments that we've received, and then we'll be back. We'll be spending our summer months back in front of all the township trustees, village councils, and city councils asking you to approve that plan. In order for the plan to be approved, we have to, and it's called ratification, we have to get 60% of the population through those governmental entities to approve the plan, including Brunswick, because they are the largest political subdivision in the county. Once all those, we'll summarize all the yeses and nos, hopefully a lot more yeses than the nos, present that then to the policy committee and to the commissioners, Board of County Commissioners, serving in their capacity as the board for the district, approve that, then we ship it off to EPA. And we have a very tight timeline to follow. I'd mentioned this started 2 years ago. Well, now we're at the point where, we're going through this statute requirements to get the public comments and so forth, but we've got to submit this to Ohio EPA by October. They've got 90 days in which to approve our ratified plan and adopt that. That deadline is January 23rd of 2016. If we fail to get the plan approved, if we only get 59% of the political jurisdictions to vote yes for the plan, then Ohio EPA will not be able to approve our plan, and they will step in and write a plan for us. As the Ohio EPA is writing the plan for us and we're losing that local control, we will have to follow the old 2009 plan, and then when EPA concludes their rewrite, it will be our responsibility to implement whatever it is that EPA would include in that rewrite. Final steps to a new beginning. Here we go. So October of 15, we're hoping to have that ratified plan sent forward to the Ohio EPA with their plan approval coming no later than January 23rd of 16. And then we'd like to sit back down at the table and immediately begin that rewrite through that work group, that MC18 initiative. And we'll open the floor to questions, please.
Thank you. I guess I'll ask if there's any questions here from council that they have. Anybody have any questions?
Go ahead.
Mark?
I have, I've been trying to do my own little research about this, and I appreciate all the effort that you guys are doing and the county's doing to try to you know, that one slide you said I think it was a new beginning. You know, I know there was some frustration, you know, from residents in this county and the city of Medina, you know, local officials as well as our recycling percentages. And I know we're trying to take the step in the right direction to find out what works, what's efficient, and what doesn't cost a boatload of money. And I appreciate you guys, you know, reaching out to all the communities and trying to get their input, because I know it probably hasn't been easy. One question I had is, I know you spoke about other communities in the state, and then maybe you can just hit this real quick about the single stream and the decision to go that way. A little research I was doing that, you know, there's still some issues with that single. To me, personally, as not only a resident and a local official, I want to see our recycling rates go a lot higher than what we've done in the past. And I know that costs money, so we got to find that even line there of what residents are willing to pay and what we're actually recycling. And, you know, to be honest with you, with just where we're at right now, where we're in charge of recycling our own stuff, you can ask my wife. It's been difficult looking at all the numbers, seeing where to, you know, I have my own little categories to set everything aside to bring it to the drop-off station. But I can do better myself. But what I was getting at is that single stream even, the quality of the recyclables. Is there any concerns with that, of like contamination with paper and things of that nature, mixing our broken glass? Is there, and I'm sure you guys looked at single stream versus double stream, and I know we just do a current, or what we used to do was just everything mixed into one. But can you just tell me why the county thinks that the single stream is going to be a little bit better? And are you, well, I guess you already told me why. Do you have any concerns with contamination of the recyclables, that even though all these communities are doing this in the single stream, once it gets to the buyer, and some of the research I've said, they might take it in, but turn out that it's not the quality, and they end up sending it to landfill. And I don't know if tonight's the time for that question, but
no, I think I'll try to answer it in a couple of parts, if I may. Just a quick touch on the volumes. I failed to mention that 2012 was our baseline year for this plan update, and then that baseline year we pulled just over 4,000 tons of material out and had shipped those to market. Of those, that tonnage that was shipped to market for recycling, 22% of that material came from the drop-off center at the CPF. So we believe in that being a very useful tool. And we also have been able to use the EPA's projections and that data from our other surrounding communities to demonstrate that we can, through 38 drop-off locations, get that number up over 5,000. So we're very much encouraged with a lesser cost program and increased recyclables. Contamination is a question no matter what your waste methodology is. Under the old mixed waste process, we were worried about blankets and garden hoses and things like that getting on the belts and causing problems to the equipment. Certainly there's opportunity for contamination in the single stream bins because it allows for the acceptance of such a wide range of materials. We feel that that's going to be less likely to happen, but in the event that it happens, part of the burden on us is just that education piece. It's placarded on the outside, and with the fantastic partnering with the schools, here's a little success story. We met with Brunswick City Schools last Friday. They're so excited about the program. Their superintendent wants a recycling bin at each of his 11 school locations. And he's going to use the money to purchase the bins for inside the schools and assign it to school groups to bring stuff out. But that kind of partnering, that kind of message sharing, getting things sent home with the kids to their parents, it's just going to continue to build. Will there be challenges? Certainly, but we'll just have to deal with those as they come.
And I think that single stream too is convenient. And I've had residents already tell me, you know, that it's so convenient just to throw thing in one container and not worry about it. And well, we might ask them to throw it in 2 containers now, which is still convenient. I mean, we as residents need to do more, I think, to at least take a little more initiative to help out in this process. But thank you again for coming tonight and giving us this presentation. Thanks.
Thank you.
Other council comments? Mr. Lamb?
Oh, thank you. You know, my concerns are these. First of all, I guess I'd have to say, you know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So if I was in your position and I were aimed up here at me, I guess I'd be asking myself exactly, why would I, as this community, want to buy back into something that was operated by the county, the CPF? Why would I want to pay those fees that we've been paying? 21 years ago, this program was sold to city councils across the county. It was sold to city councils that there was that 25% of recyclables would be pulled out and would be recycled. And so for years now, residents I know in this community have assumed that with good conscience, they have put everything in the trash and thought that there was a huge percentage of that being recycled. Week after week, year after year, for 20 years. Well, 25%, I have never been able to find 25% of the recyclables that are put out at the curb here that have been recycled. It looks to me, by my calculations, more like this. Half the trash that we have sent to the CPF goes right to a transfer truck and goes to a landfill. So there's 50% approximately that is not being recycled at all. The rest of it, if it goes on the belt, is about 2-point-something% that gets recycled.
And our fact sheets demonstrate that, so
Okay,
I can
I'm
say
not done though.
Oh, pardon me.
That gets recycled. So if I'm looking at this as a business proposition, which we are, because this is not personal in any way, but this is a business proposition, the past is predicate. We have a history that when I look at it, the beating heart of this issue is something akin to fraud. If I bought a car and I was told it got 25 miles per gallon, and the truth is it got 1.3 miles per gallon, and it came time to trade my car in, would I buy that car from the same dealer? I probably would not do that. I would not do that. And now here we are, 20 years later. 20 years is a long time to kind of gin up, you know, to figure out how to make an improvement. Technology changes pretty rapidly. Our technology at this facility doesn't appear to have changed. It really appears over the 20 years to have gotten somewhat worse. Now, we are faced with what can be described as nothing short of an absolutely dysfunctional service. We operate services here 24/7, every day. 1,000 moving parts in this city. And there is no way, no how, that we would have a service completely fall apart and then try to put together another plan with attractive programs, pretty goals, nice words, while the service lay dormant or nearly dead. So our residents in the city of Medina appear to me to be looking at this. We recently raised our sanitation rates so we could simply attempt to break even. Simply attempt to break even. Now, our tipping fee has gone down, but our residents who recycle have to take their recycling to a bin someplace, and if they do that, they are putting less recyclables, less trash on the curb, but they are paying the same because our rate was based on barely breaking even. Now, we have no idea what the future really will hold, but when I look at this, it would not make sense for us to support any plan that came from the same jurisdiction that handed us the plan that we have had and what this debacle that we are currently in. I ask you about outreach. Sometimes politicians in particular say things like, I have heard from, and they've actually just heard from their neighbor. But the truth is, when I go to church, when I go to events, when I go to neighborhood meetings, when I go to schools, what I hear from people is, what are we doing? What are we supposed to be doing with our trash? So it's good that you're going to townships and villages and you're coming here to talk to us and you have a really nice website, but the people on the street, and I don't know if I think we have maybe 8,000 accounts, do have absolutely no idea. I've had people tell me they're bundling to put on the curb, people that thought they should separate plastic, cans, glass, and take it out, and then they found out, no, you mix it all up. I don't believe that the outreach actually is outreaching. I think that there's like the failure really to explain to people that about 1.3 of what went in there got recycled. People do not understand any better today what they are supposed to do with their trash and with their recyclables, and it's not really your issue. I mean, I know you guys are working hard. You're trying to develop something that you think will be great, but you're kind of like human shields. You know, this is really a county problem that's been festering and going on until we actually got to this case, which is like the case of amputation. This is a serious infection, and here we have the body on the table, and we're going to run back now, and we're going to try to figure out what we're supposed to do. And to me, it's very disappointing. It's very sad. I am interested in having a first-rate sanitation program that has a very high level of recycling, an effective recycling program, period. Now, when Medina Recycling had their bins out, lots of folks I know, including me, we could take our paper out there, and I could guarantee you that paper got recycled. And bottom line, that's what I wanted. I wanted my paper to be recycled. Sometime in August, they were told they couldn't put their bins out because they were not contributing, they weren't paying for it, so it should have gone into the waste stream. Now, to me, that really flies in the face of trying to have things recycled. And what you wrote me today was you can actually go there if you honk your horn and drop your paper off. I cannot imagine what the difference would be if I go there and honk my horn and drop the paper off, or if I go there and I put my paper into a bin. The enforcement of the waste stream appears to be ad hoc. Medina Recycling was singled out because somehow they were obvious. I had a meeting with a bunch of people in the eastern part of the county, and to a person, I was told by them that they take all their recyclables to Summit County to get recycled, and I am pretty sure that there is trash that probably goes to Summit County as well. So this is interesting, and it's a pretty program, but the history of our association with this CPF, the money that we spent for what in effect accounts for negligible recyclables, to me is nothing short of some sort of a fraud. And there is no way, no how, that I would support any association with any plan that came out of that same egg.
I could answer a few questions that were in there if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. With regards to the prior operation of the central processing facility, there it had been traditionally, as Beth explained, bid out as one contract. All those services were included in that one contract. When we started this whole plan update 2 years ago, it was before Beth and my times in this role and in Beth's role.
But you're in the role now.
And I'm wearing it. So I appreciate this opportunity so much, because what came out of that technical advisory committee was increase the volumes of recyclables extracted and to do it at a lesser cost. So we spent a great deal of effort trying to figure out how can we re-incentivize a contractor that's going to bid on that all-inclusive contract. So we went out for bids in the fall of last year and changed the strategy of the bidding. Rather than have the operator get to keep all of the recyclables revenue right at the start of the contract, we built it as an incentive-based contract. The county was going to hold on to that recyclables revenue and reward it back to the contractor based on performance to encourage them financially then to increase the volume of recyclables extracted. Recognizing it was a 20-year-old facility with 20-year-old equipment, we build into that contract opportunity the potential to have a 20-year, up to a 20-year contract to keep pricing low, but to allow a bidder to reinvest. With those incentives, they could reinvest to try to get those numbers up on the volumes of recyclables extracted, but over a longer period of time have an opportunity to recover their investment. Those bids came in too high. We couldn't accomplish the goal that was set out in front of us, which was to increase the volume of recyclables extraction and to do it at a lesser cost. So when you look at the sum of all parts and splitting these out into the individual contracts, if an opportunity exists to collect more than 5,000 tons of recyclable materials through a program that's budgeted to cost $360,000 on an annual basis versus one that costs $5 million, those are the kind of informed decisions that we're making as a district. We've enjoyed very much meeting with the service directors, with U3 cities at the meetings that we've had here. We are trying with every breath to educate the public, and we should hear in April about our grant opportunity with the Ohio EPA to help with that education and outreach piece. We'd like to do an insert in the trading post to reach a greater population. We want to use these relationships with the library, with the school districts to help send messages home with the kids.
Let me say, I understand that, you know, and I'm not putting you on the spot. That's not my point. It's just, when I look at this, I understand what you are doing, but like I said, you know, you're the human shield. You know, this problem came about over quite a period of time where you can't get figures, and it's, you know, that was to someone's benefit. I'm pretty sure, because we were paying way more than we needed to pay. But we're not addressing something here that is incredibly difficult. This is not like we're failing in an impossible task. We're addressing something here that's done in communities all over the country and all over the world. I have a house in the least populated county in North Carolina. The county has half the number of people that live in the city of Medina. They recycle, and I live in a town of 300 people. They have nowhere near access to what we have here. They recycle everything, and it's free. And if they can do something like that, I am sure we can do it. In 1989, the city of Medina had a recycling, pre-cycling program that the state said, that the state used as an example of what communities can do to cut their waste and cut what they're putting in landfills. What we have had for the last 20 years, no one would use it as an example. So I understand what you're trying to do, but I don't know where others may be on this. I have an idea, actually, because I've talked to lots of folks, too, in different places around the county. I will not support another plan that we do not have that we do not have control in. We will have control in a plan. There's no reason why if we're going to do curbside recycling, why in the world would we want to buy in with the county? If you look at the history of what we've dealt with, the double talk, the no, it's 17%, no, it's 16%, no, it's 14%. The people I know that wanted to recycle their glass, well, suddenly they took their glass to the igloos, and without warning, the igloos were gone. That's not outreach, and that's not education. And I am telling you that if you want to get people, anybody to buy into this, I think you need to get, you know, feet on the ground and go talk to just regular folks and not just us and not just the townships.
I appreciate that very much. And part of what we feel a little bit handcuffed in is the sharing of information. We did advise when the igloos were being removed that the prior operator did not have an outlet for that glass to be brokered, and it was a contractual issue.
I understand that, but you advised, but I'm telling you, the people I know that took their glass there, they didn't know. These are just regular folks, and that's who we deal with here. We deal every day with just regular folks, and that's what you have to deal with as well.
Right, which is why it's so wonderful when we issue a press release and you can help share that information with your constituents when they're asking questions of you. And with regards to the efforts with Medina City, I'll say one more thing, if I may, please. The MC-18 provides a great opportunity for the city to evaluate the benefits of a curbside recycling program. If that's something that you're passionate about doing, we would very much support that initiative. And what the adoption of the plan as it stands now allows you is time to weigh that, run a pilot study, do these different things, and it definitely ties into what we're offering as a district because it affects the volumes that would be coming to the center. So we very much want to work together.
I appreciate what you're saying. And from this point until we get to where we are going to go, as I told you quite a while ago, I would do everything I can do to help you promote recycling in the interim. But I'm not interested in offering. I'm interested that we actually have the most effective recycling program, the most cost-effective sanitation program that's possible, and that we can do, and I think we can do by looking at the history, the 1 point something of what really was recycled. We can do it in a different way. I will not support anything that ties us again to the county. How much money is owed on the CPF, on the building?
We have a second mortgage, so to speak, that's out. The first mortgage for the 20-year loan for its original construction has been paid off. That second loan that's owed for equipment and so forth at a later date in the existence of the CPF is about $700,000.
And that loan is on?
That loan is paid through 2023.
And the loan was on?
It was on equipment and building improvements.
Building improvements were?
It was before my time, Councilman Lamb. I know what it was used for in general. I know when it expires, and I know what the approximate value is of that payoff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Mr. Rose?
I don't know if I can follow that, but I do agree with Bill and Mark in that we do have to have our recycling at the lowest cost and at the highest rate of recycling. There's no question. One thing that I'm very concerned with is you have a 15-year plan here. You don't even know how the first year is going to go. To be setting something out like this and to lock yourself into something like that, I would hesitate to approve or agree with anything of that length of time to lock the county in. We've got too many variables out there that we don't know about yet. You've got a history. Granted, you're just coming in, but the history behind this all is one that's less than stellar. It's one that causes great concern with every member of council here and many on the staff. Sometimes some of the conversation is, well, let the EPA come in. Let them write the plan. I grew up in the steel industry, highly regulated by the EPA. I hate the EPA, but I do, I'm sorry. I think maybe this is a time for them to come in. Take this plan here, clean it out, bring in the type of recycling that the majority of the people, the rest of the country do. As I understand it, we're the only county in the nation that does this type of recycling. And with the only comes the highest cost. We need to come down into something that is a little more widespread, a little more acceptable, a little more, how do I want to say it? Something that's going to involve everybody, not just throw a bag in the garbage.
And
okay, let's go to the recycling. And then my last concern is free market. Free market in my world is no government involvement. Okay, we can go, we can pick up the trash, we can take it to a transfer station, and then let the free market take care of the business the way it needs to be taken care of. Government gets involved, costs go up, regulations start going in and nitpicking people to death. Okay, we need to take this plan and let the cities run it, let the cities be in control of what we're doing so we can control the costs to who the people we're responsible for.
With one quick answer, Councilman Rose, to your point about the 15-year plan, it is required to be that type of a planning document, but it is updated every 5 years. The purpose of that extended period in time is to demonstrate to the Ohio EPA the positive cash flow that we would have in order to operate the district and to conduct those state-mandated recycling programs.
And, okay, when I first became aware of this several years ago, I said it was a bad law. I haven't changed my mind. It still is a bad law.
Thank you.
And your thing is positive cash flow? How do you get the positive cash flow? You keep jacking up your rates.
Well, I think the slide was able to demonstrate to you very transparently what's included in that price per ton. What's not included is the mixed waste. And the technologies and the programs that we're looking to implement are proven. We are unique across the country in that we don't have curbside recycling. But again, we don't control the sanitation departments making decisions about curbside recycling. So we are very much looking to work together and encourage a solution that works for all parties.
Thank you. Just to follow up on a few comments that I've been hearing, and I think we all understand the issue. I mean, we see letters to the editor saying, you know, why do the 3 cities want to get rid of the CPF? They recycle 100% of the stuff we deliver there. Why would they want to stop recycling? So I know there's a lot of misinformation out there just from the letters we read and the lack of communication regarding that. Even the people I speak with, they wonder, you know, why don't you want the CPF to continue to recycle everything? They do it all right now. Why do you guys want to stop that? So there is a lot of misinformation out there because everybody keeps telling me. Then when I start explaining it to them, they say, well, yeah, we don't want that. What are we doing? So I think once you educate people, they understand what the issues are and they wonder why we're not recycling. So, which comes to my first question is, you talked about recyclable revenue. How is the recyclable revenue built into the $277 cost per ton for the countywide single stream drop-off recycling program? Does the 5,000 tons that you talk about, does that recyclable revenue off of those tonnage that you believe we will achieve come back to the county to offset the costs of the funding through the gate rate?
It does not come back to the county as a recyclable revenues sharing program. If the bidders on that single stream recycling bin contract keep that recyclable revenue themselves, that will drive cost down. We are trying to get the lowest price per pool for those recyclable materials so we can keep that gate rate as small as we can. If we start asking them for a revenues share to where they're giving us some fraction of that recyclables revenue, they're going to cover that in their cost that they bid to run the program. So it's our goal to keep that cost as low as we can as a service to the county.
What is, I know it's a fluctuating rate, but I don't understand the 5,000 tons, what you can, when you take it to sell it, what you get for the 5,000 tons per tons. And I guess I don't know. I mean, I would assume it's less than $2.70 a ton. I don't know how much you get per ton. Do we have a guesstimate? I know it's a fluctuating rate depending on the commodities of glass, plastics, and paper and all that stuff.
And recyclables commodities are just like any other commodity. Actually, they track, if you've watched your own possible retirement, market ebb and flow, the recycling markets are the same. They break those into the individual commodities and they broker those depending upon the quality of the material as well as the volume that's going to market. The rationale behind not asking for a revenue sharing is you're putting the risk of those markets back on that private contractor. That is, if cardboard is going for $40 a ton for a period of time, that's great. If the market bottoms out and they have to pay to have those materials taken based on transportation, that is, that it's a zero price per ton, but they have to pay to transport that material. All that risk is put back on the individual provider.
Understood, but do we do a study on what the average cost historically has been on recyclable single source? Do we know that answer?
We do have that information. We would have to run it based on the 5,000. Typically, and I guess this is something that folks need to understand, recycling is not necessarily a huge money maker because of those fluctuations in markets.
Understood.
And so we don't want to take that risk. We want to just put that risk on the provider.
Understood, but what would be the number? What was the average number? What is it we're talking about per ton?
It would depend on the
historically, you had to look at it because you wouldn't be doing a report unless you know the numbers, I would imagine, because that wouldn't be prudent. I mean, what would the numbers be? Because you're coming up with a 277 number here, you had to get that number from somewhere.
Pardon me? It was what we had, it was what we took from surrounding districts for their rate.
But
And
do they know, again, do we know, I guess we can call and find out, what the average rate of recyclable single source per ton would be? Like, so we know what the hauler would be receiving when they take 5,000 tons. I know it fluctuates. We really can't put a hard number on it, but there's a range, I'm sure.
and I can provide that to you. I don't have that off the top of my head. I have it back in the office.
The other question I have is looking at the gate rates is he says $1.22 per ton for retirement of debt for 500,000 in 2020, 25, and 30. And I guess what are those other 25 and 30? What is there more debt going to be added, like we talked about before? And I guess we have 700,000 now.
Correct.
And I guess I don't know, what does the 20, 25, and 30 refer to in your slide?
Well, that would be dependent upon whether or not, once we met for MC18, if that group decided that mixed waste processing was going to be part of that integrated. If it's not, then that goes away. And I guess that's the point I wanted to bring up is MC18 is going to provide the opportunity to really decide what we as a county are going to do. If we're going to move to Councilman Rose's point, to a free market, if we're going to, one, pay off the debt, rewrite the plan to eliminate designation of the central processing as that is the place you have to go, which at that point then opens free market. So for example, if Medina wanted to entertain a curbside program, you're free to create that program anywhere you want. If you want revenue sharing, that's yours to keep. If you want to put the onus back on your, to whomever you have processing your recyclables, that's your opportunity too. At that point, that gate rate goes away.
But that plan, that is not in this plan. That is for a future plan that has a group of people, as you mentioned, but the group of people are made up of the cities, of course, the commissioners and townships, but they all have to agree. If one says no, it doesn't happen. So again, you have veto power. It says, I can read it word for word if you'd like. I mean, I read it enough times to try to figure this out. The MC18 provides, it says, the work group will develop the overall objectives listed into a roadmap that will guide the district and the district's policy committee in updating the solid waste plan. The roadmap must be approved by a majority of the work group members. The majority voting on the roadmap document must include 2 of the cities, the commissioners, the township, and majority of the policy committee. Again, we go back to, it includes us, of course, but it's the commissioners, the township representative, I think, is appointed by the commissioners, and a majority of the policy committees, which is appointed by the commissioners, I believe.
No, they aren't. The
How-
policy committee is set in statute. Those members are set by statute.
Who picks those members? Are set by statute, but who selects them? I mean, you have to have a township representative.
The township association does.
The township, okay.
Yep.
I-
I mean, for example, the health department, the head of the health
Or
department's
has
on it.
part-
I mean, we don't, I mean, that's designated.
But these ideas are a work group for a future plan, not this plan. This plan allows the CPF to continue. This plan allows the debt to continue to be on the CPF. This plan allows no free flow control. This plan ties us into an existing world that we live in today, which is, we don't like that world.
Well,
Why
we're
would
hoping
why
that-
would we vote for the plan that is causing us the angst that we continue to have over and over again? And you keep mentioning to us about this debt that cannot be paid off.
Well, the
And I think Mayor Hanwell, if you wanted to chime in now regarding the debt, you came up with some information and have. Okay, you could talk about the debt, but I think some of those are the concerns that we've spoke about on numerous occasions. Again, the 3 cities, they really do want to recycle, and it seems like the public believes that recycling is happening. And the only reason that I'm kind of concerned about this is it's all about the money, and it's all about trying to provide the best service at the least cost to the residents. And there's 3 cities that only really want to be involved because the 3 cities really have no say in really what happens, even though we make up 60% of the population and provide 60% of the trash. We have no say in what happens with respect to our trash and everything. So,
we understand those points, which is why we put MC18 in this plan.
But that's future plans. That's not this plan.
It is this document, correct. But since that activity is in this plan, We have to sit down with you all on February 1st of 2016.
Too late.
At,
We should do it now. I don't understand why we have to wait.
oh, and we don't have to. I mean, we can begin discussions. We've had discussions with all of the, townships, the cities, to talk about future programming, and we're going to continue those discussions. It's just that statutory timeline that we have to stick to. We're trying to provide you everything that you would like, you meaning all of the communities, and do it within this statutory structure that we have to function in. So if we can sit immediately back down in February and begin all of the things that we've started to talk about now, we will continue to talk about, and get those memorialized into a brand new document beginning next year, that's where we want to go. We too want to offer.
But I understand it, but I guess I'm looking at this. It says March 2nd to March 31st, public comment period on solid waste plan update. Well, I think we're giving our comment. And that comment usually should be adopted within this plan. And it also says there's a public hearing on the solid waste plan update on April 9th, and then revised plan based upon public comments. Well, we're giving you public comments that we don't like the plan. We want the plan modified. Why can't we modify this plan?
We have tried to give you the MC 18. The reason is statutorily we have those goals we have to adhere to. We also have to have a sustainable funding mechanism. Some of the analyses that need to be conducted are, for example, if we go to free market, what is that funding mechanism? Unfortunately, there's a great deal of analysis that has to be done and needs to be concluded by the time we are due to go to ratification. We don't have enough time to do it now. I mean, for instance, with the central processing facility, we need to do the analysis. Does that actually serve as a transfer station, for example, for folks within the townships, the unincorporated area? Does that serve a function or not? Does the yard waste program there serve a function or not? What do we do with that facility? We have to think about, well, if we're not going to have a gate rate, what is the cost that we need to run all of these programmings? And we simply, these ideas came up, and they're all very good ideas. We just have not had the time to get them all crunched into this document based on, unfortunately, the statutory timeline that we're up against.
I totally understand that.
So the best thing we could do is to say, we're going to continue analyzing all of this, and then in January, after approval of this plan, we sit down in February and get all of that in a new document. It's a timing issue, unfortunately.
I guess I understand that, and I guess I would decide with my other two colleagues. I'd vote no on the plan, and I guess that's where I stand. There's a lot of issues, so we don't have a lot of the answers to those issues, so I can't support the plan. I think that the plan only provides us the things that we've always done, and I don't think that's a justification for our residents to recycle. I keep hearing that we're recycling. I keep telling them, no, we're not, and they're saying, well, make us recycle. And I said, I'm trying. And I know you guys are making a valid effort on it, but I don't agree with the plan, and we can disagree on certain items, and I think that's one of them.
I did just want to make a point when we get to the ratification piece, and this is just a matter of clarification. I keep hearing and have heard in repeat discussions that 60% figure for the three cities, and actually by population, the total of Brunswick, Medina, and Wadsworth represents 47% of the population in the county. So I just wanted to make sure I was able to say that.
What about the amount of the trash then?
It's based on population.
So we only
for
get 47% of the trash?
47% is the three cities' totals based on population.
But we know in townships they burn trash and stuff, so we know that a lot of that trash.
And is that just is that consumer trash, or does that include industrial?
It's not based on tonnage; it's population.
Okay, population, but so.
But okay, Mr. Simpson, you were looking
I'm
eager.
sorry to interrupt, but I have to leave. Amy and Beth, Commissioner Frederick, I want to thank you for the time that you've invested in this. Hopefully, through the talks, we'll be able to come up with a plan that everybody's happy with. Right now, I don't think we're at that point, but we do recognize, you are and Beth are new to this relatively, when we're speaking the 20-some years. Commissioner Frederick, you're new to this too. I hope that throughout the negotiations between all the political entities that we can arrive at a solution that's going to benefit everybody. But I just really, truthfully want to thank you for coming here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, thanks. Mayor Hanwell?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Mr. Huber would like to talk too, but let me handle these couple things first. To me, it makes no sense at all that we have a comment period, but the comments don't mean anything because the plan's already written and we're not going to adjust anything. We're out of time, so it is what it is. I've heard this over and over in the meetings downstairs. I'm hearing it again tonight, that it really doesn't matter what we think. To me, there's no point whatsoever in having a comment period if it's too late in the program to adjust anything in it. Second of all, I do agree that MC-18 did give the city some voice, but it's not enough control that the cities need for the investment and the amount of money that the three cities collectively, be it 47% or pretty near 50%, the cities need to have some kind of control of our destiny because our residents are suffering as a result of decisions made out of our control. Mr. Lamb brought up the enforcement. There's absolutely no enforcement whatsoever of seeing what trash generated in this county is actually coming to your facility. The only action that was ever taken was when employees of the city of Medina a number of years ago actually followed a trash hauler out of the county and opened the bags of trash to report to the person then running the CPF as evidence of trash being hauled and not taken to the CPF. It seems to me that enforcement, if you're going to have a mandate like this that requires everybody to do something, then there should be some sort of enforcement to make sure that everybody is doing what you're asking them to do. When I looked at your slide for host of the dumpster, it seems if we would permit these dumpsters on city properties, which I'm not real keen about, it says we're being paid $1,500, but the host of the dumpster is responsible for the upkeep and care and cleanliness of it, but yet it says in the agreements that the contractor is responsible for it. Those two things don't seem to be in agreement with one another. Either it's the property owner or it is the contractor. And then my biggest concern is I ask repeatedly downstairs and in several meetings with Commissioner Friedrich and a meeting with Commissioner Smith downstairs, and I believe in an email to Scott Miller, is there a penalty to pay off this debt that you have? And if there's not a penalty, then why would we spend almost $170,000 in interest going from the July payment of this year through 2022? And I've yet to receive an answer from the county. However, I asked our finance director, Keith Durham, to contact the Ohio Water Development Authority today and give them your loan number, and found out that because it's equipment, that debt can be paid off with no penalty whatsoever. So my question remains, why would we have $1.4 million in reserve and refuse to pay off a $700,000, $600,000 to $700,000, I've heard both numbers, debt, and instead pay $170,000 of our dollars in interest?
I could speak towards a couple of those things, Mayor, if I may. With regards to the enforcement, it is a challenge for the district to make sure that all of the materials that are to be flow controlled come to the center. For example, the yard waste program, the leaves collected by the vac trucks through the city of Medina are to come to the central processing facility. They're not. They're currently being taken to Smith Brothers. So that is a component, you know, whether we enforce or we don't enforce, it is very much challenging. So what we're looking to do is find solutions to that. Through that satellite yard waste program, we're looking to get a location sited in Medina so that that problem is corrected through some collaborative efforts of our working together.
Okay. May I interrupt you right there just for a second? You know, when we started taking our leaves to Smith Brothers, the day after we had the meeting here with the 3 cities, and we found out from the 3 cities that the city of Medina was the only one taking their leaves to the CPF. So if the other 2 cities are not being required to take them to the CPF, why would I have to pay tonnage for that? That decision was made the day after we had that meeting right upstairs here with the 3 city councils around the table here, and us being blindsided with the only one being held responsible to take the leaves down there was us.
And then with regards to the payoff of the loan, paying off the debt does not relieve us of the designation. The way the plan is written and the way we've operated is that rubbish, everything generated in Medina County is supposed to come to the central processing facility.
It does not do away with flow control, is what you're saying, correct? I get that. What it does do is save me $170,000, me and the other cities and the other haulers that you're paying in interest for no reason whatsoever. I can live with this.
Understand your point.
Okay, I can live with the flow control for a point, but I can't live with spending $170,000 in interest when we don't need to.
Thank you.
Amy, when you spoke to the village of Spencer, you addressed a couple of issues. As I understand it, from when I heard you last, in the last number of years, the amount of recycling that actually has gone on when taken from 100% tonnage, the recycling is actually about 4%. Is that correct?
If you look at what came across the scales, 130,000 tons, half of that went straight to the landfill, half got put on the belts. Of the half that got put on the belts, there was a percentage of about 6% of recyclables that were pulled off of that recycle stream. That's on one of our fact sheets.
And that's been that way for a long time.
That's our calendar, that was our baseline year 2012 for this plan update.
Now, with respect to this plan that you're presenting, you have consultants, I assume, who are helping you put this plan together. Is that correct?
We have traditionally had a consultant assist us in the plan preparation. It's a company by the name of GT Environmental.
Now, with respect to this proposed plan, what are your consultants telling you will be the projected percent of recycling?
They are saying that we should experience about a 25% increase using the community drop-off recycling bins as the cornerstone of our program to demonstrate access through that 5,000 some tons versus the prior using the mixed waste processing as the cornerstone that was the 4,000 some tons.
Well, what's the basis for them making that projection?
The statistical analysis through other districts that have community drop-off programs and Ohio EPA statistics.
And have they given that to you in some kind of written estimation, or is this?
It's in the plan. It's described in the plan.
Okay, that was my question.
Thank you.
Well, just for clarification from Mr. Huber, you mentioned that we did 4,000 tons and we did about 6%. What you're saying, and then we're going to do 5,000 tons. Where's the other 20,000 tons to get us or more to get us to 25%?
I'm sorry, I was comparing that we were increasing that 4,000 by 1,000 to get us up to that 5,000 tonnage mark.
Okay, so we're still only going to be totally recycling out of 130,000 tons, only 5,000 tons.
That's our baseline, right? To improve that baseline. But through these complementary programs that we have heard others are interested in implementing, such as curbside through City of Brunswick, and you folks yourselves are considering that, those numbers will go up, but we have no guarantee of their implementation, so we can't count that in our plan as a sure thing. We are counting and demonstrating our access through that increase through that single stream recycling bin
Well,
program.
I mean, we're really serious about the curbside, and maybe the answer is if the plan does eventually get adopted as is, maybe we can have a exemption if we do go to curbside, because there's no way we can pay for curbside and continue to pay a gate rate for both programs, because it would be cost prohibitive. And maybe we could talk about somehow getting exempted out of the plan, so we don't have to follow it if we prove that we can do our own recycling at a higher rate and we show you numbers of that effect. I don't know if that works for the EPA or not, but maybe that's a way to settle some of the issues, is to let us be able to get out of the plan and not adhere to it at all if we prove to you that we're recycling more than even your 5,000 tons.
Well, right now, within this plan, you could institute a curbside recycling program,
But we have to
as
pay
Beth
the
described.
But we have to still pay
Only for the rubbish, right? So if you separate those recyclables out.
But that's still a higher number, though, I guess it would be if we take, we don't know what it's going to be, and if there's a tipping fee of $60 again because you haven't bid out the CPF, we'd have to pay $60 a ton for a smaller amount, but we're still be paying $60 plus we have to pay for this recycling program. And you yourself said the recycling program does not pay enough money to pay for itself, so we'd be paying a lot more for our city residents to do the recycling program.
Well, what this plan allows us to do through those plan budgets A and B is to not add any cost to that $45 per ton tip rate, for example. So having that known number for your planning purposes, looking to institute a curbside recycling program, you could broker your own materials however you choose to do that, and the rubbish would come to us. You could do that under this current draft plan without any challenges through our waiver program. What would then change, though, with the next plan update and the free market concept is that you'd be able to take not only the recyclables but the rubbish to whomever you choose that gets you the best price.
But currently, under the current plan, there's no guarantee that B would over A would be selected.
Having those two in there and us describing in detail in the plan that it's got to be a value added. There has to be value added in the volume of recyclables pooled to make that a viable option.
But that's countywide, though. That's just not the city of Medina.
And this plan allows us to do that. The old plan doesn't.
I know, but it's just this countywide. It's not the city of Medina. So if we prove that we could do it, and maybe Brunswick doesn't, Wadsworth doesn't, Seville or other communities don't, there won't be a value add to you. You'd say, well, even though Medina is really doing great, the whole county isn't, so we're going to stick with Plan A.
Well, let's say in an ideal world, Brunswick, Medina, and Wadsworth all do
We hope.
institute curbside recycling programs. That's fantastic. The tonnage goes down, right, coming to the CPF. But through the next plan update, we'll be able to evaluate and go through that whole process, public meetings, public comments, and so forth, for the generation fee.
Understood.
So you won't be paying $45 a ton. Maybe you're paying $6 a ton, but you're doing with it as you choose.
Understood. To me,
So
too,
we'd like to
too
get
late.
there.
John?
Too late again.
I have one thing I'd
Okay,
like to say.
one last question. I think, Brian, you got anything down there? Mark, did you have anything?
No, I'll wait.
No, you're going to wait. Okay, that's good.
I just want to clarify one thing. When you just said 6% of what went on the belt was recycled, was pulled out. But that 6% is of 50%. I mean, 50% of the trash that was already taken to the landfill, the transfer station. So it's 6% of 50%.
Or 3%.
Correct, so 3%.
So that would be 3%. And
of
what
inbound.
portion of was any portion of that the recyclables that were delivered and dropped off there?
They were.
Okay.
20%.
So what percentage was that?
22% of the 4,300 tons shipped to market were from the drop-off
Okay,
center.
so 22% of the 3% then comes off, and that would leave what?
A great
Less than
opportunity
one.
in
No,
the
that would
future
leave
to
what? What
increase
is it?
recycling.
Roughly 0.4. 0.6%.
Okay, so that would mean it's about 6%. It's about 0.6%. So when you say that, when you say something like 6% gets recycled, the message that goes out to the people that were participating in putting their recyclables in their trash, that's a really low number. But at least it was 6%. It wasn't 0.6%, which is what the real number was.
So our contractual handcuffs are off, and we have every opportunity to increase recycling. in the
And like I
county.
said before, we have seen this history before, and we're not going to repeat this same mistake.
Commissioner Verjic? Sure, you can come up, sure. That'd be fine.
How many of you have seen The Matrix?
Which one?
The first one.
Yes.
All right. So there was a period. There was a scene in The Matrix where the main character Neo was presented a red pill and a blue pill, and they could take the blue pill and remain blissfully ignorant of what's going on, or they could take the red pill and they would know the truth. So about 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to take the blue pill and extend the contract with the provider that was there at the time, and they were going to institute some technology that would increase the recyclables. The county was still receiving revenues from those recyclables, but based on my discussion with Amy's predecessor, which was Jim Troike, based on discussions that I had with the cities, the answer was that's not the best thing that we should do. And honestly, if I'd have taken the blue pill then, I'd still be blissfully ignorant, as well as everybody in the county. All right? But we didn't take it then. Then we went back out to bid, and we had the bids come in. And again, listening to input mostly from the cities, they said, hey, this is not going to be cost effective. We don't think we should move forward with this bid. And we said no to the bids because they weren't cost effective. So now we're in, what do we do after that? So now we've taken the red pill. And if you remember in The Matrix, what happens when you take the red pill? Life sucks. All right? And we're in the red pill state right now. Everything you said, Councilman Lamb, is absolutely 100% true. By the way, the number is 2.8%. About 3,500 tons came off the scales, off the belts rather, out of 125,000 tons that crossed the scale. So 2.8% of what we actually pulled off the belt was recyclables. We got credit for other things, and how the EPA asked us to calculate things was a landfill diversion rate, and we never failed. But I'm here to tell you, to exactly your point, what the citizens of Medina County thought we were doing, we weren't. So here I am. I'm getting bashed by folks who said I should have given that contract to Envision because they were doing a good job. I'm getting bashed by the cities who say you're not looking out for our interests, and I'm getting bashed by the folks who say Frederick wants to send everything to the landfill and recycle anything. And none of those are accurate, but I'm getting bashed by 3 different groups at the same time. So what I know from what I've been involved with and from my time in every position of leadership is you trust the brains of the outfit. And the brains of the outfit are these 2 right here. So what we need to do, I'm here to tell you, as God is my witness, and as on the board of directors of the Solid Waste District, not as county commissioner, on the board of directors of the Solid Waste District that the county has been charged to manage. What we need to do is we need to approve this plan so that, again, as God is my witness, on February 1st, we can sit down, we can eliminate flow control. So all the things that everybody's concerned about, the tipping fees, that goes away. If you want to implement a curbside recycling program, you're welcome to do that. The county, again, the board of directors of the Solid Waste District, we still have financial responsibilities that we have, all the different the things, the EPA mandates, all those programs, they don't go away. We still have to mandate those programs. So if you do a recycling program, if that does or doesn't pay for itself, doesn't matter to us. What does matter to us is when you take trash to whatever facility you want, whether it's the CPF or some other facility, there is still going to be a generation fee that we have to collect. We have no choice but to collect that fee because we manage the Solid Waste District. All the other things, the free market solutions, Councilman Rose, all those things become on the table, and the things that the cities want to do, the things that the townships wants to do, that sounded really bad. All those things are possible, and in essence, I don't want to say we're washing our hands of it because we're still a solid waste district, but those things all fall into the laps of whatever the cities want to do, whatever the townships want to do. That $45 a ton, if stuff keeps coming out to the CPF, that's fine. If we eliminate flow control and nobody wants to bring their stuff out there and you send things elsewhere, that's fine. We still have to collect that generation fee. As part of this next process, though, we had one bid that was for a waste mall, and those folks have still been interested. I've had 3 or 4, and they didn't meet our bid specs. I've had 3 or 4 times we've had contact phone calls. They've come to us and said, we want all of your garbage, and we'll give you X number of dollars a ton for 20 years. That's something we should consider. That might be the next big thing. If there's no trust in doing things together, I understand that, then we don't do it. But any of those things can be on the table, but with the timeline and the things that we have in place, again, the brains of the outfit is right here. We need to pass this plan so that we can get to the next plan, because everybody now has taken the red pill, but they've all taken it too late. We're too late in the process to change the course that we're on, but we're giving you our word through MC-18 and through what we've pledged to do, that we're going to move forward with a new plan that accomplishes all the things that have been brought up. Because Mayor Hanwell, I agree with you. Councilman Lamb, I 100% agree with you as far as your view on what we've done as a county and as a solid waste district. We've not accomplished what people thought we were accomplished, and we're in the process of fixing that.
Thanks for your comments. I think we went way beyond where we wanted to be. It's 9:30. Well, that's okay. Is there anybody else? Nino, do you have anything to add? I mean, you were involved in this from the beginning.
I'm not going to belabor things. I think everything that has been talked about, just good points on both sides. The county has worked with us. I've worked with Amy and Beth, and there's been some movement. Again, not to the satisfaction of the city and what we want to do. We are racking our brains in sanitation and trying to implement some type of recyclable program. Been contacted by various companies offering to supply totes and what have you. So we're working toward that, and we're hopeful that that we can come up with a solution. We do want to increase recycling, and we still want to do it at a lower cost. And to add to your frustration, we're probably not going to pick up your trash anymore, Commissioner, so you know. So there's 4 people. Well, and we do. We have a fantastic trash service here in the Medina city, and we want to continue that, and I think we will. Well, thank you, but I don't have anything else. So.
Okay. Well, thank you, Nino, and thank you guys for coming. I know this has always been hard. We're very opinionated, as you know, but I think we can work our way through this. We still have the comment period. I don't know if we're going to have a written comment. I know we've been working on that, and we'll probably show up at the public hearing again. You'll love to see us everywhere you go. But we appreciate your effort and time. Don't take that as a negative as we're doing here. We're just voicing our opinions as hopefully you understand. It's nothing personal, but we love to talk, evidently. But appreciate your time again, Commissioner. Thank you for coming. Everybody, thanks for your time. And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.